Thursday, October 4th, 2018. Present at the front table to my far right is Ken Richardson, a voting member. To my immediate right, Bill Rhodes, a voting member. My far left, Ed McGargy, a voting member. Seated next to Ed is Ed Casuli, a voting member. And to my immediate left, our esteemed solicitor, William Malone. Kenny, would you please lead us in the pledge?
Please rise and repeat with me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thanks, Kenny. Good evening, everyone. We have two decisions, two continued cases, and one new case this evening. Minutes. Mr. Secretary.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I would make a motion, having heard no additions or deletions or changes to the minutes from the September 20th meeting of the Zoning Hearing Board and the September 6th meeting of the Zoning Hearing Board. I would move to approve those minutes.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, thank you, Ken.
Thank you.
Our first decision this evening Our first decision is case Z18-24, Siam Anand and Shrija Siam, owners of 2100 County Line Road, Ardmore, PA, DC folio number 2206-0068400, who seek a variance from the provisions of section 182-727C4 to allow a 3.5-foot high estate fence in the primary front yard of County Line Road. Property is on R6 and located in the 6th Ward. Mr. Richardson, would you please take that decision?
Yes, I would vote to deny the requested variance.
Okay. Mr. Rhodes?
I agree.
Mr. Casuli?
I agree.
Mr. McGargy?
I disagree.
I agree. So that would be 4 opposed, 1 yes. That application fails. Our next decision is case Z18-21, Republic Bank. I'm going to read this entire description into the record, so bear with me, it's quite long. Republic Bank, equitable owner of 2400 Darby Road, Haverford Town, PA, who seeks a determination from the provisions of section 182-404B2 that the proposed drive-through is an accessory use to the principal use as a bank. In the alternative, a variance from section 182-404B to permit a drive-through commercial banking facility in the C3 district. Also, an interpretation is requested under section 182-708 that off-street loading and unloading space is not necessary to serve the proposed drive-through for a commercial banking facility. Or, in the alternative, a variance from section 182-708 to permit the banking facility without a loading and unloading space. In addition, variances are requested from section 182-404C8 to permit the reduction in impervious surface to 82.4%, where the maximum permitted is 75%. Section 182-715. In addition, variances are requested from section 182-404C8 to permit the reduction in impervious surface to 82.4%, where the maximum permitted is 75%. I think I just read that one. 182-715 to allow the reduction of front yard setbacks on Darby and Eagle Roads. Sections 182-701B12B to permit a freestanding sign that will encroach into the required 10-foot setback. Section 182-701B12C to allow the bottom of the freestanding sign to be 3 foot above grade instead of the 4 foot required. Section 701E1B1 to permit signs that exceed the 35 square feet per street frontage. Section 182-701E1B2C to permit a freestanding sign to exceed 25 feet, Section 182701B5, to permit a freestanding sign within the 25-foot sight triangle at an intersection, Section 182701B18C and Section 182701E1B2 to permit directional signs in excess of 2 square feet, and Section 182702 to permit signage within the building setback or area bounded by street lines or corner. Property is zoned C3 and located in the 3rd Ward, and that was a real mouthful. Ed Casoli, would you please take that decision?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. I vote to deny the request for determination regarding the drive-through, but do approve the variance for the drive-through. Likewise, with regard to off-street loading space, I believe a variance is required, and I approve that. I also approve the remaining variances subject to the following conditions. The revised site plan that was submitted be followed. The right turn lane from Darby to Eagle as depicted on the plans being constructed be completed within 1 year of approval and in accordance with the notes of testimony.
Okay, and Ed, just for clarity, many of these original requests were modified throughout the hearing. So when you say in accordance with the notes of testimony, our written formal decision will be more specific, obviously, as it always is, but not all of these requests remain. So we're approving the remaining requests that weren't withdrawn or modified during the hearing.
That's correct.
Okay. Ed McGargy?
I agree.
Bill Rhodes?
I agree.
Mr. Richardson?
I agree.
And so do I. That application is approved with those conditions, 5-0. I'm going to go out of order, just so Mark can get it. Yeah. Our next continued case this evening will be CZ 17-14, Marion Golf Club, owners of 300 Ellis Road, Havertown, PA, DC folio number 2204-003500, who requests that the zoning hearing board allow the reinstatement or extension of zoning order Z 17-14 regarding the expansion of the existing outdoor covered dining terrace within 14 feet 10 inches of the Ardmore Avenue roadway. Property is zoned INS institutional and located in the 4th Ward. Mr. D'Amico. How are you?
Mr. Chairman, I'm well. May it please the board, my name is Mark D'Amico. I'm an attorney with an address at 109 Chesley Drive, Media, PA 19063, and here tonight representing the Marion Golf Club. I will be very brief here. I've got essentially just 2 exhibits, maybe 3. The first one is just a copy of the letter that I sent to the township requesting the extension on July 16th, and Exhibit A2 is a copy of the order that this board entered on September 7th, 2017, granting essentially, which is just one variance, which is a setback variance from the Ardmore Avenue. So I'll hand those up to your solicitor. And I've got one witness, and that is the general manager of Marion Golf Club, Paula Kelly, and I'm going to ask her to explain to the board the need for the variance.
Okay.
Paula, come on up.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
And your full name and the capacity in which you appear before the board this evening, please?
Kelly, General Manager, Marion Golf Club.
Okay, Paula, I am handing out what I've not yet marked. I'm not sure it needs to be an exhibit, but it was the main exhibit from last year when we went to the zoning hearing board, in case anybody has any questions. In the meantime, would you just explain what you've done in the last year and why you're looking for more time?
So this project was over at the West Course Bungalow Terrace area off of Ellis Road. And as I think the board knows, we've been undergoing a restoration on the East Course on Ardmore Avenue. So this particular variance that we had gotten gave us 1 year to get the terrace rebuilt on the west course out at Ellis. With everything that's been going on the east course, we've not actually had the time to get that project underway. So we'd like to see if we can get a variance to extend that time to actually get that project completed.
So, Paula, you haven't begun the project yet?
If not,
Okay. Questions? Bill?
Based on the project and the information that we received, notes testimony on the prior hearings, is there anything about the project from a scale, purpose, design, square footage, any of that that's any different than what we previously reviewed and approved?
no, nothing's changed.
I don't have any other questions.
Ken?
You have an anticipated construction beginning?
Not necessarily. I think until we finish the East Course restoration, then we'll move on to deciding when that's going to happen. We certainly hope it's sometime within the next year, but I can't stand here and say it's exactly going to happen on a certain date.
Ed Kisuli?
I don't have any other questions.
Ed McGargy?
Can you confirm for the record that there were no appeals of our decision the last time?
No, there were not.
Thank you.
Can I just ask one more question? The approval last time, I believe, was conditioned upon essentially that if there were negative feedback from the neighbors about noise, that you would come back to us and we would reopen essentially the decision and hear testimony from the neighbors. Would you still be comfortable with that as a condition on the new approval?
Absolutely, yes.
Is that it, Bill?
Are you asking for 1 year? Is that?
Yeah, at least a year would be great.
Yep. I don't have any other
I
questions.
have no other questions myself. Kenny, do you have any other questions? No. Ed McGargy, any other questions?
No questions.
Ed Kisuli, any other questions?
No questions.
With that, I'll ask if there's anyone present that received certified mail regarding this case that wishes to testify. Anyone that received regular mail? Any other residents of Haverford Township? With that, this case is closed, and I would ask my fellow board members if they're prepared to vote so we can move this item off our agenda, unless they're not prepared to vote. Mr. Kisuli, are you prepared to vote?
I am.
Mr. McGargy, are you prepared to vote?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Rhodes, are you prepared to vote?
Yes, I am.
Mr. Richardson?
Yes, I am.
Okay, then I would move that we extend this variance together with all conditions contained in the original order and grant this for 1 additional year. And if it's not completed within that year, the applicant can come back and explain and request additional time at that time. Mr. Richardson, how do you vote?
I agree.
Mr. Rhodes?
I agree.
Mr. Kisuli?
I agree.
Mr. McGargy?
I agree.
Okay, that application is approved, 5-0.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thanks. Have a good night. Our next continued case is Z18-26, Oakmont Realty Partnership, owners of 29-31 East Eagle Road, Havertown, PA, DC folios number 2203 00815000 and 2203 00816000, who seek a variance from the provisions of Section 182707B parking to allow a standard restaurant at 29 East Eagle Road without providing the required off-street parking, and a variance from the provisions of Section 182707B parking to allow a rooftop dining area at 31 East Eagle Road without providing the required off-street parking. In addition, a variance or permission is requested to allow the conversion of the existing fabric canopy at 31 East Eagle Road to a permanent structure in conformity with the notes of testimony of Zoning Hearing Board Order Z02-04. The property is zoned C3 and located in the 3rd Ward. Mr. Mattson.
Good evening, Mr. Kane, Mr. Malone, members of the Zoning Hearing Board. My name is Joe Mattson. I'm an attorney. I'm a member of the Delaware County and Pennsylvania Bar Association here in Haverford Township. I'm here representing the applicant, Oakmont Realty Partnership. Before I begin, Mr. Chairman, I've been authorized by the applicant to amend a portion of the application to withdraw the requested relief for 31 East Eagle Road. And in particular, we're withdrawing that part of the application that states, quote, "To enable an outdoor rooftop dining area on the rooftop of 31 East Eagle Road, Haverford Town, Pennsylvania, with a variance for relief from off-street parking regulations and requirements as set forth in section 182.707.b. This withdrawal is being made without prejudice. I have a letter to that extent. I'd like to hand it up to the board to be part of the record. I'd like to have this marked as A10, please.
Thanks, sir. So presumably, you'll have a pre-marked exhibit packet with A1 through A9, and you want to make this 10, right? You did say A10.
10, because I have some other exhibits to hand up as well.
Okay. It's not marked, so I'm going to ask.
I'm going to have you mark it, if you don't mind, or have the court reporter mark. I have given the court reporter a copy of that. She has a copy.
Go ahead, mark it.
Her copy is marked.
You do have the marked copy. Okay.
And if I may, Mr. Chairman, I have some pre-marked exhibits. I have a package for each member of the board, as well as for the solicitor. I'd ask that they be admitted into the record, please.
Before they're admitted, why don't we identify them as your case goes? And they're marked, and then they'll be admitted. Okay? And I see someone standing to your right, Joe, and...
This is Robert J. Donahue, esteemed colleague, and I believe he's representing the individual who's going to oppose the application.
Okay?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, Robert Donahue, I have a card for you, and also for the reporter. I represent Edward Rimmer, who is a property owner of multiple properties on the same block of East Eagle Road, properties 1 through 9 East Eagle Road, as well as 34 East Eagle Road. I would ask that I be recognized as Mr. Rimmer's counsel as a party to this action in opposition to the petition.
Is there any objection?
I have no objection, no.
I would recommend to the board that given the ownership and the proximity to the applicant's property, that party status be granted.
Okay, unless there's some objection or discussion from the board, Mr. Rimmer, through his attorney, Robert Donahue, will be granted party status.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
If I may, before I begin as well, I have some photographs I'd like to hand up to the board. They're already in the package, but I thought it might
And
be...
Joe, you did give Robert a copy of the exhibits.
He has a full copy of it, yeah. I have, these photographs I'm going to hand up are in the package. I just have them grouped, it might be easier. They're indexed. Testimony is being presented.
You need the exhibit stand? I'm not sure where it is. Exhibit stand. The easel, I don't know where it went. You see it, Ollie? Do you need it, Joe?
I need what?
The exhibit stand?
not,
the
no.
easel? Oh.
I do not, no, I do not need it. So, yeah, thank you.
Please proceed.
Indeed, I'm going to hand up, as part of the exhibit package that I handed to you, was applicant's Exhibit A5. They were plans depicting the proposed expansion into 29 East Eagle Road. They're small, so I bought plans for everybody.
Thank you.
You keep your rubber hands.
We'll shoot them at you. Proceed.
Mr. Chairman, 31 East Eagle Road is presently used as a standard restaurant known as the Oakmont National Pub. The establishment is licensed by the Pennsylvania Liquor Control Board to sell alcoholic beverages in conjunction with food service as regulated by the Liquor Control Board. There's also an outdoor dining area used seasonally with hours regulated by previous orders of this board as set forth in Exhibit A7, which is in the exhibits I handed up. Standard restaurants and outdoor dining uses are permitted in a C3 district, which this is. 29 East Eagle Road is presently used as a karate studio, but is also owned by the applicant. The applicant desires to expand the area of patron usage used at 31 East Eagle Road by breaking through the wall into 29 East Eagle Road. To do this, the applicant must address the parking requirements dictated by the ordinance. Also, the applicant desires to replace the present cloth canopy covering the outdoor dining area at 31 East Eagle Road with a more permanent structure, and believe it needs permission from this board based upon previous board orders, which is Exhibit A7. You'll see from some of the exhibits I handed up that the present canopy is in a little bit of a disheveled condition. In particular, I would call your attention to Exhibit A4B. Now, with respect to the parking issues, according to the plans, which are Exhibit A5, the applicant would need to provide 6 off-street parking spaces, utilize 29 East Eagle Road for patron usage. In reality, in this area of the township, they just do not exist. To address this issue, the applicant has been successful in obtaining a long-term parking lot lease with Bryn Mawr Trust Bank, located approximately 1/10 of a mile from the Oakmont National Pub. That lease is Exhibit A6, which is in the package. I have a loose copy here. In addition, there are other lots in the area which could, and I emphasize could, be utilized by the applicant's patron. One of which is the Grace Chapel, and I have a letter setting forth their parking policy, which is Exhibit A9, which is not in the package, but I'm going to hand up now. I have taken a copy of that to the code reporter.
What's 9, Bill?
E9.
Gotcha.
If I may add that if this board looks favorably upon this application, the applicant, pursuant to an agreement of sale, will be transferring ownership of the business and the real estate to a corporation which presently owns the Brick and Brew, which is down the street on Darby Road. The plan is for Brick and Brew to relocate to 31-29 Eagle Road. The parking lot lease, which is A9, clearly indicates that this is assignable to the Brick and Brew. Brick and Brew will then be responsible for any permitting issues that may arise in connection with any improvements that will be done. So we're here tonight solely to address the parking variance needed to enable the use of 29 East Eagle Road for use as patron area, in addition to the canopy, which we'd like to have replaced with a permanent structure. I have one witness, being Brendan Goggin, who's a principal of Oakmont Realty Partnership. If I may call him when you're ready.
Sure, and just, Joe, before you.
Yes, sir.
You start, I'm looking at Exhibit A7, which is the September 17, 2002
Yes.
order of this board. Subparagraph or condition number 6 concerns the awning. Other than that change, is the applicant seeking any other alterations to this September 2002 order?
That's the only, and I said I didn't even know that I needed a variance other than permission, because the order basically said you're not going to change the canopy unless you come back and ask us to change it. So that's the only change we're making. We're not increasing the dining area, hours.
My only question was, we're not seeking clarification or amendment of any of the other conditions in there.
No,
Applicant
those conditions,
understands that
those
they will-
conditions remain, yes.
Yes.
Those conditions remain, yes.
Thank you.
Sure. Okay, Mr. Goggin?
Okay, Brendan, please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? I do. Your full name and the capacity in which you appear this evening?
Brendan St. Ledger Goggin. I am principal owner of the Oakmont National Pub and Oakmont Realty Partnership.
Okay, Mr. Goggin, per the deeds, which are Exhibits A2 and A3, the Oakmont Realty Partnership is the owner of 31 and 29 East Eagle Road,
Yes, that's correct.
and this is located in the C3 Commercial District.
Yes.
And what businesses are presently conducted at 31 and 29 East Eagle Road?
Well, as you stated, 31 has been in operation for 20 years as we celebrate it this year. We are currently a restaurant and a tavern, and have been serving in that capacity in that area for the last 20 years.
Even though this is in a C3 district, are there any residential uses? Even though this is in a C3 district, are there any residential uses in this area?
No.
Are there any apartments like across the street?
Oh, yes, I'm sorry, yes. There's apartments, there is residential, there's apartments across the street and across the street, the businesses there have apartments upstairs.
The karate studio presently leases from Oakmont Realty Partnership, is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And I think you already told us this, but how long has the operation at 31 East Eagle been in operation?
We're going on 20 years. 1999.
Can you describe for the board, even though they have plans and drawings, the present layout of 31 East Eagle?
Yes, so the first floor is an old bank, so the first floor is used for patron space and a bar area. The second floor is a mezzanine area, which is additional seating, and we currently use the outside for seasonal dining, depending on inclement weather.
And there are restrictions on the seasonal dining, is that correct?
That is correct.
Where, if you know, do your patrons presently park?
Well, it's limited because of the scope of the area, but we do have a small lot that fits 7 spots. And then there's off-street parking both on Eagle and Darby Road. There is the Oakmont lot down the street next to Hoopty's. That is a formal lot, which is currently a little bit underutilized, but there's that as well.
And what is your purpose and your reason for coming before the zoning board tonight?
So as mentioned, we have entered into an agreement with the Bricks of Havertown, the corporation that owns Brick and Brew, and they are looking to expand into our location. So as a contingency of our agreement, they have to, in order to be successful with the way they plan to move their business and continue forward, moving into our property of 29 East Eagle would help solidify their plans for the future to move forward into the property next door and merge the two places together as one restaurant.
As I understand from the application you filed and from what you're saying here tonight, you're requesting that you be able to break through the wall into 29 East Eagle Road and to use the first floor as a standard restaurant?
That is correct.
In conjunction with what is now at 31 East Eagle?
Yes.
And you also want to replace the present cloth canopy over the outside dining area at 31 East Eagle to be replaced with a permanent structure?
That is correct, yes.
And by expanding this usage, you're aware of the ordinance requirements to provide parking spaces?
I am aware.
And do you know what the ordinance requires?
I believe we need 6 additional spaces.
And what, if anything, have you done to attempt to secure these additional spaces?
So we sought out and secured an agreement with Bryn Mawr Trust, our neighbor down the street, about a 1/10 of a mile, almost equidistant to how far it is to the township lot. But to do a long-term structured parking lease for our patrons during non-business hours.
And how many spaces are available at that location, being Bryn Mawr Trust?
26 total spaces.
And the lease that you referred to is Exhibit A6, which I have handed up to the zoning hearing board today?
Yes.
And in addition to Bryn Mawr Trust, even though you have these 26 spaces, are there other areas that your patrons could possibly park in the area?
Mentioned before, there's the lot, and since you presented Grace Chapel, they've always been very gracious, I guess, with how much they let people park there. They've always said they're a very community-driven location, and they don't want to enter a long-term lease with anyone, but they'll let anyone park there. They already let the farmers market go there, so they were very open to patrons being able to use it. Sometimes people use the lot at Oakmont and off-street parking as well.
Will there be some method whereby patrons will be directed to park at the Bryn Mawr Trust parking lot?
I imagine so, but that would really be up to Brick and Brew when they take over the business to make that decision, how they do that.
Mr. Goggin, absent knocking down adjoining buildings, is there any possible way to put 6 off-street parking spaces on the lot occupied by 29 or 31 East Eagle Road?
No, there's not.
Okay. Has this always been the case?
As far as my knowledge is concerned, yes.
If the board looks favorably upon this application and authorizes the grant of variance, will this grant alter the essential character of the neighborhood?
No, I don't believe so.
Will it impair the use or development of adjacent property?
No,
Will it be detriment to the public welfare?
no,
The only variance you are seeking is a parking variance, is that correct?
that is correct.
As far as I know, the use is already permitted, is that correct?
That is correct.
And do you believe that the lease with Bryn Mawr Trust represents the minimum variance that will afford you relief?
I do.
Are you willing to accept such reasonable conditions that this board may place on the grant of variance, such that they did with the conditions set out in 2002?
I am.
Okay, thank you. Does the board have any questions?
Okay. All right, Robert, do you first want to ask questions before the board?
Down first,
Okay.
some questions. Let me do it at the... Mr. Goggin, you have indicated that 29 is currently being used as a karate studio, correct?
That is correct, yes.
And it can continue to be used as a karate studio?
Ostensibly, it could, yeah. It's a month-to-month lease, yeah.
And being used as a karate studio, you're not required to get this variance that you've applied for tonight, are you?
If I was to continue the use as a karate studio, then no.
Okay. And as a karate studio, how long has it been rented that way?
If memory serves me correct, a couple years at least. I mean, we bought it from Dr. Sun, I want to say, I could be wrong, but six years ago or so, give or take.
Would it be fair to say that the motivation to seeking this variance is for profit? It's
Well, the motivation would be irrelevant if you want to phrase it differently, but
okay. You stand to make a profit if this sale goes forward, do you not?
I hope to, benefit both Brick and Brew and us in meaningful ways.
noted.
And isn't it true that you've received a variance for parking in the past in connection with 31?
Yes.
And how many cars additionally did you ask for when you sought that variance?
I don't recollect.
Let me ask you this way. How many square feet is the outdoor dining area at the current location at 31?
I don't know it off the top of my head.
Is it in your plan?
Probably, yeah.
My name is Mr. Solicitor. I believe this matter has already been resolved by the zoning hearing board. A variance was already granted with respect to the outdoor dining.
It's correct, but let me see if I can just add some clarification, maybe this will help you. My understanding back in 2002 was that there were 22 off-street parking spaces required and a variance was granted because they were 15 short. Subsequently, in 2013, there were amendments made to off-street parking requirements, which would have actually made them 4 short. And now we're asking for an additional 6 spaces. So I think that would pretty much put into perspective, I don't think either council would disagree with that interpretation, that those are the numbers at play.
I believe it may be 6, but either way, Mr. Solicitor.
6 now, yes.
I think it was 6 in the past because it was 583 square feet and an additional 6 now for the 29.
Right, what I think it was they were 15 short, the changes made them 4 short subject, but even if it was 6,
Okay,
we'd be a net 12 as opposed to the 15 that they initially got.
Fair
So,
enough.
just so we're all clear, I want the board to know where this stands.
okay, thank you. Goggin, you indicated that you don't know how patrons would be directed to the Bryn Mawr Trust parking lot. That's correct?
Well, that's gonna be up to the Brick and Brew when they do the build out.
What interest are you going to have in this building if this sale goes forward after the sale?
I will be no longer involved.
So you're applying in name only?
I'm not sure I know what that means.
You're the applicant on this petition
Yes,
as the
yes.
Oakmont Pub, but the Oakmont Pub will have no interest in operating this business afterward.
That's correct.
And has 29 East Eagle Road ever been used in conjunction with 31 East Eagle Road?
I don't know, but I believe it was part of the bank original structure back in the 20s. I think 29 and 27 might have all been connected, but I can't confirm that.
Would you agree that parking in the area is a problem?
I've been surprised over the years how much you would think it'd be a problem, but oftentimes when people want to come to a place, they manage to find spots. But typically for our Tier 1 community outside of the city, it would be nice to have more spots. But the Oakmont lot being resurfaced and redone has brought a lot of, I think it's underutilized actually, the Oakmont lot.
Okay, I have no more questions at this point.
And Mr. Goggin, just for clarification, when you say the Oakmont lot, you're referring to the public lot
Yes.
that Mr. Mattson referred to on
Yes,
Darby
next to
Hoopties?
Hoopties, correct. That's exactly what I'm referring to.
Just because the restaurant's also called the Oakmont, so I just want to clear that
Right,
up for the
I got you.
record.
Fair enough.
May I have a follow-up question?
Yes, go ahead, Joe.
Mr. Goggin, in response to Mr. Donahue's question about the karate studio, you presently have an agreement with the company that owns the Brick and Brew, is that correct?
I do.
And you're contractually obligated by that agreement to be here tonight to apply for this variance, is that correct?
That is correct.
And as part of the agreement going forward, the karate studio has to essentially disappear.
That is correct.
And they're on a month-to-month lease, so you can get rid of them anytime you want.
That is true.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone have questions for Brendan?
I do.
Bill?
Yeah, I have a couple questions. So, the lease you have with Bryn Mawr Trust Parking that's submitted as Exhibit A6, I believe, has parking, essentially what this agreement says is that when they are not open, you can use their lot. Your clients can, your patrons can use their lot. So the business hours, this lease describes the available hours for your use in reverse of their business hours, effectively, right?
Yeah, probably.
So, and so it's hard to really parse this out. It says Saturday from 12 p.m. to 9 a.m. So that's really like Saturday noon to Sunday 9 a.m., but then it's closed all day Sunday anyway. So it's, I'm trying to figure out what this, if you look at section.
I see it. I see it says 12 p.m. to 9 a.m. That to me would at least say through Sunday morning.
Okay, it should be 12 a.m. to 9 a.m., and then in theory, it would be open again after they close on Saturdays? and
As
it's available
I understand it, Mr. Rhodes, the Bryn Mawr Trust Bank closes on Saturday at noon.
At noon, okay.
They close at noon on Saturday, so the lot would be available until they reopen, I would think, on Monday.
Okay. Okay, and then you mentioned parking at the Oakmont public lot, but are you aware of any agreements by the township for preferred parking there for others? Whether the township owns the lot or anyone else does, I'm not sure, but in that, it's a pay lot.
Yes.
But Are you aware of them having any existing arrangements with anyone for preferred parking there?
No.
So now, under the current configuration at the pub, how many seats generally does the pub have for patrons?
I want to say 90. I mean, yeah, including upstairs, outside. Bar seats as well.
Bar seats, tables, okay. And how many would fit in the new, as laid out, as proposed?
I'm going to defer to council on that because
It looks like there'd be from the, if you look at the floor plan, first floor plan, which is A-10.
let's double check this with your glasses. Is that the number, 36?
It's not A10.
It would look like approximately 36 plus 16.
Wait, hold on, Joe. A10's the letter withdrawing the rooftop.
Talking about, it's A5, panel A-1.0.
That's the existing one? Yeah. There's 10.
The third page of Exhibit A5.
So this is existing.
This is existing. This is 31.
This, okay.
And that's the outdoor seasonal dining, where the canopy is. When the architect's plans, and of course this would have to, whatever this goes for, this would have to go through codes. The proposal here is 36 plus 16. But the code doesn't call for parking based upon the patron seating, it calls for parking upon the square footage. For patron use.
I understand. I'm just trying to get a sense. So,
I hear you.
so this is, the layout on page A10 is not the current layout in the restaurant. But there's booths and things down one side, right? Which will be removed, it looks like. Do you, so the net dining overall of the entire restaurant is, or you can give me the square footage if you want. I'm trying to get the differences between where we are now and where it will be.
If I can aid the board, I've counted the spaces. It's 137 is what they're proposing on the plan.
Robert, we're going to let them, and on cross or recross, you can elicit your testimony. But but this isn't a work session, so why don't we take a few-minute break, and you guys can look at the square footage and what it is, you know, under the current condition and what it will be under the proposed condition. And to the extent you want to work with Robert, if he's already calculated those numbers, that's up to you, but we're in recess for 5 minutes.
Okay, sure.
All right, we'll resume the meeting of the Haverford Township Zoning Hearing Board of Thursday, October 4th, 2018. Before we broke, we were talking about the square footage under the current conditions as compared to proposed square footage under the proposed conditions. So were you able to calculate that for us?
Or at least on the plans that I submitted, Mr. Chairman, for 29 East Eagle Road, the square footage associated with the indoor dining was 530 square feet. Now, the actual building, I believe, is, each building is approximately 2,100 square feet, 29 and 31, the total square footage. But I believe the ordinance speaks to square footage as devoted to patron space, patron usage.
It does. So what's the square footage for patron use currently versus the square
I'm
footage
going
for
to
patron
do the
use?
math backwards. I believe if we were to go for a parking issues on 31 East Eagle today, we would need probably 11 spaces. And that would be for patron usage, and for 29, assuming this is the, we don't have patron usage yet at 29, but this is the proposed, according to this, And whatever this board does, assuming they do grant the variance, whatever goes forward is going to have to conform to this. They're not going to be able to expand it beyond that.
So my question is, what's the square footage for patron use as proposed for 29? I get 31 isn't necessarily different, other than you're giving up the mezzanine space.
For 29 is 530 square feet, and that's indicated on the first page of the plans, which is A5.
Am I not seeing this?
Just being
A5. Good. So you've got, you're giving up 265 square feet of mezzanine from current space, but adding 530, so the net is approximately 270 additional square foot.
If you do the math, yes, that's how I would look at it.
So that's correct?
I believe so,
On a
sir.
net basis, okay. And so, but on a net basis, we think that that triggers additional parking requirements for which you need a variance of how many parking spaces then?
Well, based upon the patron usage, according to the code, it's 100, one space per every 100 square feet. 530 square feet, you jump it up to 600 square feet, that would be 6 spaces.
Okay. 6 spaces for the new building, and then the variances that you have in place for the old one went, essentially, there's some amount, 4 or 6, for which you have a variance. But you're going to actually decrease the patron space in the original building?
That's correct, because the mezzanine's coming out.
And that would be about 265 square feet?
That's correct.
According to this?
And I think it's about 3 spaces, if you do the math. 3 spaces would come out. But the lease we have with Bryn Mawr Trust allows for 26 spaces.
Understood, yeah, understood. So on the seasonal dining, for the benefit, the current restrictions prevent the use of that space by months, days, nights, hours?
Hours, and I believe by 11 o'clock PM. No music, none of that nature. It's fairly well spelled out in the previous order. And as far as I know, they had complied with that since they've done it.
And the canopy roof that you're going to replace with a permanent roof, so
That's what the Brick and Brew would like to do, yeah.
And then, but you would then retain the open walls, the plastic walls?
Yes, we're not going to enclose the walls. It's going to remain, I mean, I do believe at this point they may have some, if it's inclement, they have some plastic that comes down, but
Yeah.
there's no permanent enclosure of the outdoor space.
So I guess one question might be, have you given thought to having the full thing enclosed with windows instead of plastic?
Not this applicant.
All right, I don't have any other questions at this time.
Okay, Kenny?
no question.
And McGarty?
For the area that's now the karate studio, is there a difference in parking requirements for karate studio as there is for restaurant use?
Honestly, Mr. McCarthy, I did not examine that. It's been a karate studio for a significant period of time. I focus solely on the restaurant usage.
But when looking for the hardship, when you're talking about it, it already has a use,
Well,
and it has a lesser intense use than is currently there.
The hardship basically is that there really is no parking in this area at all. I imagine for the karate studio being 2,100 square feet, they're going to have some type of parking requirement, and I don't have that off the top of my head. I don't have the ordinance with me here. I didn't anticipate that question, to be honest. The parking there is basically limited to what's on the street, and I'm sure at least for the size of that studio, you'd have to have probably at least 3 or 4 spaces for the use of the karate studio, because you have employees and things of that nature.
One of the things we always look at, though, is what the existing use is and what the proposed use is, and whether you're changing the scope of what is allowed. and whether you're changing the scope of what the neighborhood is.
I believe any applicant that's going to come into this area is going to have to get some relief from parking, because it's just not a viable situation with the way it's configured.
That's not necessarily correct, because if you put in another karate studio, you don't have to have relief because it's non-conforming in that use.
Okay, well, I mean, again, if the karate studio's there, they don't own it, they're on a month-to-month lease, and if they depart and some other use comes in there besides a karate studio, I'm sure that they're going to have to come before this board to find some kind of relief.
Okay, but it's not an abandoned use now. So I'd really want to know what the requirements are for the karate studio parking space.
Well, I said I don't have that at my
We
fingers
need to
tonight.
have that, I would think. That's what my request would be.
Mr. Mattson, would you like to submit that? to
I
the
would, I'd
board
like to have the
subsequent-
opportunity to submit that, yes.
Thank you.
If it's the board, I have a copy.
We have the ordinance. But we're not going to do the work of the applicant or protest it. If you want to submit it during your case, then you may. Okay. Ed McGarty, Ed Kasul, any questions?
No questions.
Okay, and neither do I. Please proceed, Jeff.
I don't believe anything further than what I presented with Mr. Goggin and either in direct and redirect. So I will step aside and let Mr. Donahue have his time. I'll probably have some questions of Mr. Rimmer.
Jordan, you're moving your exhibits and resting.
Yeah, I believe I moved them in already, but if I haven't, please move them into the record.
Okay. So, do you have any objections to any of the exhibits being admitted? Okay, they're admitted. A1 through A10.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, I call Edward Rimmer.
Okay. Please come forward. Certainly.
Chair, I'm really, I don't do well for a long period. Thank you. Appreciate it. Should I face here or face an edge?
You can face us. Can that microphone,
I can slide over. I can, down a little bit. You can do that. Okay, thanks. Appreciate it.
okay, but I'll still ask, please raise your right hand.
Okay.
You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
And your full name and the capacity in which you appear before the board this evening?
Edward W. Rimmer. I am the owner, with my wife, of 1 through 9 East Eagle, which is on the same side of the street as the property that wants to do the changes. That consists of 4 residential units and 4 commercial units. The 4 commercial units are very low traffic, virtually no traffic in most of them. The electrician doesn't even go there, uses it for advertising. And the store on the other end basically stores stuff there. The woman in the middle, she's never there. It's some type of, she does kitchens, but I don't know where she does it from. And then Pruitt, which is the last one to enter there, the flower shop was there before that. And so, and they don't get a lot of activity. The neighborhood prevents a lot of foot traffic. I mean, everyone's beating up the same point. There's no parking there, basically. There's no parking. I mean, in front of my building is literally in the middle of the street. It was probably built before 1920. And they tried to make it historic, which would be the worst thing you could possibly do. You'd be stuck with it. You can get rid of it at this point, some point. Okay. The other reason I'm here, I, with another individual, own 34 East Eagle, which is a partnership that owns it. By the way, we owned 5 East Eagle since '84. So we were long-term people there. And we've got a lot of history with what's going on there. And 34, we bought, was distressed property. It was only like 10 or 12 units being used. It's a 46-unit apartment house. And so there's 46 parking spaces there. And so basically, and that's, as I said, we bought that in 1995. So I have a lot of history with that, with the parking area again. I mean, I did permits. I mean, you name it, I tried to keep my people having some place to park. And it reminded me, they said they did Oakmont 20 years ago. That was one of the problems. I mean, literally, people park there and walk across the street. They still do it, okay? And so people come home, and they don't have any parking space. And so, literally, we gave out parking permits. I mean, the only thing we could do was set up some type of thing. They'd break it. I mean, the tenants break the doors. I mean, it's a very delicate area. And so basically, Wawa solved the problem, okay? I don't think they intended to, but when they couldn't put the pumps in, there was a lot of parking spaces there. And so basically, the area got a little reprieve. And basically, we've been given restaurant, people next door opened a restaurant, there's no parking there. The lot's across the street, right on the same side as 34. I mean, I just ate there. I went back and did my homework again. And so I went back and spent a couple nights there to see what was going on, okay? So you've given permission for that restaurant, okay? Probably seating for 45 or 50, okay? It's a little Italian restaurant. And then across the street is this pub, okay? Which has been a pub for the 20 years. And so basically, that's when I had the problem. I mean, when they first opened up, it was a nightmare, okay? And then Wawa solved my problem. And so what I'm worried about is that I can't provide parking for my people. They're going to come home from work and not be able to park because it sits right across the street from it. When I first went there, the property was a disaster. I put a sprinkler system in. People from the bar in the middle of the night would go back to their cars, the sprinkler system would go on, and it was destroyed 3 or 4 times, gave up. I still have a backflow for two water systems for it, but I don't use it because, quite frankly, I mean, I have no control over it in the middle of the night, okay? I mean, originally their plan was to put a rooftop thing. I mean, and I'm sure, and please, it's not what's before the board, but you know, they're going to do it. They're going to come back and.
Well, Mr. Rimmer, we're going to focus on the application
I
that's here.
understand, but I mean, literally.
If I could finish.
I'm sorry.
I think the board can understand that, but if this owner or some other owner wants to come back and ask for additional relief, that's subject to another.
I understand, sorry.
Another proceeding. We're looking at what's there now. Just for clarification, did you say you have 46?
Yeah, there's
dwelling
46 units and 46 spaces, and quite frankly, some of them are difficult to get into because it's parking under the building, okay, and there's back corners and stuff. But some of the people can't afford a car, but some people have 2 cars.
And Bob,
And so-
just because I'm on that, under today's code, because we're doing this, do you know how many spaces would be required if this was a new apartment building being put there with 46 dwelling units?
Yes, I do. I believe it's 2 spaces per unit.
Okay, so we're understood that
It was yes.
it's existing, but we're about half of the spaces that would otherwise be required for an apartment building.
I would agree with that.
Okay.
And Mr. Rimmer, do you believe that the lease agreement with the Bryn Mawr Trust Company is a practical solution to the parking problem?
Calls for speculation.
He's not an expert, but I'll let the board allow it and give whatever weight would be appropriate, but you can answer that question. It is, it's on the record.
It would be easier to park in the Oakmont public lot, which you have to pay for. It's closer than this proposed where they want these people to park. I mean, that's a real walk, okay? I mean, it's just, I mean, you can put up signs and stuff. People are going to park where they park. And so why would you walk 2 blocks or 3? I think it's even more than that. And no one, I mean, literally there's going to be a sign up that says that's where you should park. People are going to park where what's convenient. So I don't think, they don't park in Oakmont. I mean, if you're on the other side of the street, okay, for the barber shop and things like that's the only, other than the bar, that's the only activity that really has foot traffic. There is no foot traffic there. You can't rent it to somebody who wants foot traffic. I had a phone store, they left. I mean, it's first of all, there's a lot of traffic. The parking on the one side only takes place after like 6 o'clock and fills up. I watched 15 minutes, the 9 spots were gone. And so, I mean, it is Darby and Eagle Road. Everybody knows where Darby and Eagle Road is. And it's literally, it's a nightmare of parking. And so, and basically, if we're going to make it into a restaurant area, I mean, you know, maybe we ought to build a parking garage. Okay, maybe we can talk Wawa into, you know, I mean, literally when Wawa lost the pumps and we had all that parking, I mean, you know, I was cheering for Havertown. I mean, they did a wonder. I mean, but the situation is, I mean, it's a nightmare there. I mean, that building, my building with has no parking, I tell them to get a permit. And that's basically, I think, what people were alluding to about Oakmont. I think you can park in that lot if you have a permit. And so literally, they have to walk across Eagle Road, which is not easy to do, and basically park in that lot. If you're on the other side of the street, then basically you can, it's safer to walk that way. But with the restaurant that's adjacent to 34, which was put in during the last 3 or 4 years, okay, plus all those apartments that are above all those stores or whatever they are, because virtually no foot traffic in any of them, they use my lot. I mean, literally, Mapes people used to. This lot is the only lot other than the one from Wawa. And so, I mean, literally, for me to show up here, you understand? Okay, I mean, literally, I owned the building since 95. I know the people in there. I mean, they sit under the building, they're poor. And basically, why should their life be changed because somebody wants to do, well, something that basically is really, there's no way, I mean, you don't have to do this. And to do this is going to change people's lives. There's going to be aggravation. You know, literally, I know there was brawls, coming out of the place. They did not only just destroy my sprinkler system, which I just abandoned, but literally, there's people, they're drinking, and okay, it's a restaurant bar, but it's also a bar. If you go into the Oakmont, the first thing you see is a bar. It's a bar, okay? And so I'm not going to get passionate about it, but I think the people that live in that apartment house have as much rights, maybe because they don't own a home and they don't even get notices, quite frankly. And I thought that maybe they got notices, but they don't get notice. Only a property owner gets notice. And so I felt that I had to come here. I don't want to be here. I'm not that healthy, okay? I'm here because I feel I have to be here, because I'm the only one who's going to speak up for them. They have no other place to go, some of them, honest to God. They're indigent, a lot of them, and the rents are pretty small. Anyway, I'll end.
Mr. Rimmer, did you notify any of the residents of the apartment
No,
building?
I did not.
So you don't know whether or not they're objecting, or would object? You're just speculating?
I don't know that they would show up. I know they would object.
Well, you don't know that. You're assuming that, correct?
I talked.
You didn't give anybody notice, and
No.
you're speaking for them, correct?
I'm speaking from my opinion.
Okay, thank you.
Nothing further from Mr.
Questions? Kenny? Oops, oh,
Yeah,
sorry.
just,
Sorry,
one-
wait, I'm sorry, Kenny. Sorry, Joe.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Joe.
Good evening, how are you tonight?
Good, Joe.
That was a very passionate presentation. You and I have known each other for a period of time, is that correct?
Yes.
Now, isn't the fact that 34 East Eagle Road, you've really admitted that that's not owned by you individually, it's owned as a limited partnership?
Yes.
And there's other individuals involved in that
No,
partnership?
one other individual.
But there's
Two people.
Two people, and they're not here tonight, is that correct?
Actually, he's in China.
Okay, and Mr. Malone asked a question that I was going to ask about your interaction with the tenants. Do you have a tenants association there?
No.
Okay, so there's nobody there who would speak on behalf of the tenants or be able to be here tonight to speak on behalf of the tenants?
I'm sure the tenants individually could be, but there's no, to my knowledge, there's no tenant association.
Now, you don't live in this area?
I live in Drexel Hill.
Correct. You live in Upper Darby Township, correct?
Correct.
Joe, could you speak a little louder?
Sorry.
Only because the microphone's down.
Sorry.
You don't live in Haverford Township, you live in Upper Darby Township. And isn't it fair to say that you're probably not in this area a significant period of time, say Thursday, Friday, Saturday evenings?
I've made it a point to be there on Saturdays and Sundays because of the problems I've had. Now, I didn't have problems for a while, and so I haven't spent as much time over there. I also had a heart condition, so I was basically incapacitated. But
the question-
the fact that when I go to those properties on that block once a week, every week,
And do you go like at 10 or 11 o'clock at night?
I'm there. It becomes, I've noticed the pattern. At 7 o'clock, it calms down. The traffic calms down. The area becomes relatively quiet. Okay? And so at 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock, it's pretty quiet there. And so I was, very upset when I heard they were going to do a rooftop, but they backed away from that because that would totally change the neighborhood.
Well, that's not part of this application.
I know, but
You're aware of that.
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
And you were very honest when you agreed with basically with the applicant that parking is a problem in this area.
Absolutely.
And any business that's going to go in there is going to have a problem with parking.
Yes, but you have to, in my opinion, adjust the situation. My 4 tenants, okay, literally are people that went there knowing they had a problem. They basically get attention because there's a lot of people that go by, and so they get advertising from it and stuff. So basically, the area can be used. You have to, it's like the people across the street. Except for the barber shop, there is virtually, the bakery moved down. I mean, it is an area that is very, very different.
So is it your preference to have empty storefronts?
No, I'll tell you what you can do.
Well, I didn't ask, no, I just asked you what your preference was, and your answer was no. And I asked, well, I'm asking the questions.
Yeah.
And I believe you testified you have 46 spaces there at 34 East Eagle Road? And some of your tenants have 2 cars?
Some tenants have 2 cars.
And that contributes to the problem there as well?
No, because some tenants have no cars.
But if somebody has 2 cars, they're taking up somebody's space that could have 1
We
car.
only tell them they can park 1 car there. So we could, by permit, when we did the permits before, we only gave them 1 permit per unit. And so basically, if we got back to the situation where I go there and see what the situation is, and basically we have not had to go back to permits. And the answer is the Wawa.
So you don't have permits now, so the potential for somebody who has 2 cars at 34 East Eagle could park 2 cars at 34 East Eagle. Isn't that correct?
If the situation got up, I'd have to go back to the permits.
But you got away from the permits. Isn't that a fact?
Yes, but there's adequate parking for the 2 cars because the people who don't have any cars. So, gee, I'm not infringing on the neighborhood. My problem is solved in the building.
And even according to your council's calculation, if you had to conform to the code as it is today, you'd have to have 2 spaces for each unit. Is that right?
I heard that, yeah.
Okay, I'm just reiterating what your council said.
Yeah, but may I make an observation?
No, I'm asking a question.
No, well, but you're implying that.
I'm applying nothing. I'm asking questions.
There's efficiencies in there to the degree.
Mr. Rimmer, you have counsel here, and if he wants to ask you questions, pardon me, if I could finish.
Late hours late, I apologize.
No, Mr. Rimmer.
And I understand.
This is crazy.
Mr. Rimmer.
And I understand.
Joe, there's just a certain protocol that we follow here, and the person that it's most difficult on is the reporter. So if we're talking over each other, interrupting each other, or trying to dictate how things go, it becomes very difficult for her. Mr. Matson's going to ask you some questions, and then if your attorney wants to ask a follow-up, he will, okay?
And Mr. Rimmer, you mentioned in your testimony that the Bryn Mawr Trust Bank is far from the Oakmont pub. Is that a correct?
That's correct.
Do you know actually how far that is from a foot?
I do not.
If I were to suggest that I drove it and it's 1/10 of a mile, would you have reason to disagree with me?
Would have no way of knowing if it's 1/10.
Well, if I would tell you that I did drive it and it's a 1/10 of a mile from the Bryn Mawr parking lot to the front of the Oakmont pub, would you disagree with that?
Okay, may I ask?
I'll just ask you, would you disagree?
I have no reason to disbelieve, not believe.
Okay, and nothing further. Thank you.
No.
Robert? And now, Kenny? Mr. Rimmer, the board members may have some questions for you. And Joe, would you please push the microphone back down?
I will.
Thank you.
Kenny, do you have questions? Bill?
I guess the only question I have is if you've had non-residents parking in your apartment building parking lot, have that been reported to code enforcement or the police for trespassing?
Back when we had the problem, we've not had the problem. I don't recall that. I know we discussed it with them, what they could do, and I don't think there was anything they could do other than because the people were parked on our lot, we had to tow them off. So we put all kinds of signs up, put up signs that it was permit parking. People, it's dark, it's across the street.
Have you ever given thought to putting, card access gates on the lot?
I did allude to that in the thing about it. I'm just literally concerned that you've got to remember that little street that they come up to get into it, because you don't enter from Eagle Road, you enter from, I forget the name of that little street where that restaurant is. And basically, it's a turn And so they might not even realize that there's something there before they get to it. And so lighting would have to be greatly increased, which would cause people, at nighttime to have, you'd have to put up special curtains because that whole side would be lit up. I mean, it's literally, if you know the building, the parking mostly is under the building. There's only 6, the reason there's 46 units, 20 face the street, second and third floor. First floor is just 6 units, and all the parking is underneath it. And so, I mean, it's like a postage stamp. I mean, it literally fills the person that did it, provided one space, and it worked because probably, I mean, there's only, I think, 6 2-bedrooms in the whole place. I mean, 1 bedroom and efficiencies. And so it's really, it's a very small, like, community. I mean, I moved the mailboxes outside because it was, basically everybody was going to the 2nd floor. I mean, I spent a lot of time trying to figure out how this would work. And so, and basically the equation doesn't mean, I mean, for it to work, you can't create an imbalance. You understand? It's working right now, okay? And so Mapes is out of there. Mapes was a nightmare for me, but it was during the daytime mostly. And so,
I don't have any further questions.
Ed Casoli?
No questions.
Ed McGargy?
A question about the Wawa fix the problem. Does Wawa allow people that aren't shopping at Wawa to park in their lot? Is that what you're saying?
I'm sure they do not.
Okay.
Sure that that's not part of what's going on. I just think that they have so much parking, it's not a problem to them.
Thank you.
Is that it, Ed?
That's it.
Okay.
One more.
Go ahead, Ken.
If I were to visit one of your residents, where would I park?
Well, you'd probably park in my lot.
In your
Because
lot?
if you're visiting during the day, there's plenty of parking. I mean, at night now, there's still, I mean, I literally rented that restaurant twice and sat there in a window seat and watched for 2 hours what was going on. And there were a couple of people that parked on the lot and went across the street. There were some people who just parked in the lot. I don't know whether they were killed people or what they were, but they eventually left. But there was sufficient parking if people wanted to visit.
Are the spaces, parking spaces at your apartment house numbered?
No.
So they're not assigned to units?
Oh, no, absolutely not. That's a nightmare.
Another question.
Okay. I don't have any other questions.
Again, I apologize for being, okay.
No need to apologize.
Thank you.
I have nothing further for the board.
Actually, Robert, I just have a quick question for you. I did ask Mr. Mattson if he wanted to provide something to the board regarding the parking. If you'd like to, you could provide that as well. I'll ask you both, though, to exchange it to each other before sending it to the board. And my recommendation would be that it gets sent to me in advance of the October 18th hearing.
Excuse me, Mr. Malone, are you, like a memorandum, is that what you're referring to?
Really just concerning the parking question that we addressed earlier.
At the
Mr.
karate
McGarty's
studio.
question is, what is the required parking right now for the 29 Ezekiel Road for use as a karate studio?
For use as a karate studio.
Is that correct, Mr. McGarty?
That's correct.
Okay, and I will look at the code tomorrow, and I'll provide something to Mr. Donovan, and I will either
Well, just
agree or
make sure you exchange it.
disagree, and we'll get something to you.
Sure, and if you would both agree, you can even send it as a joint or one letter saying that we've discussed it and agreed.
Can I forward it to you by email?
Yes, please, you have my email, and I'll provide you a card as well.
Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Donovan and I have had discussions before this evening, so we're, okay, all right?
Anything else you'd like to add?
Nothing, perhaps, I don't know if the board would like argument at this time, or?
I'll call on residents first. So with that, I'll ask if there's anyone that received certified mail that wishes to testify. Anyone that received regular mail? Any other residents of Haverford Township? Do you guys want to come up and address the board? No? No? About this case? Okay. Okay. So with that, we'll keep the record and therefore continue the case open for the sole purpose of receiving the calculation of how many parking spaces would be required or are required by the current use, which is a karate studio. I do have one question of Mr. Rimmer, if I might, and you don't have to come back up if you don't want to. If the karate studio were to move out, and another restaurant use or any other use came before the board and needed parking relief, and what would you suggest to the board?
If it was in a karate studio, it doesn't present a problem to me, because most of the karate people, the kids do it and stuff, and it's really not a problem. They're not there late.
But if it wasn't a karate studio that came in to replace it,
You mean, if
like a retail use, for example?
there's a retail use, I mean, I probably couldn't object because of what, I don't know what the rules are, but as a practical matter, they're gonna have a problem because people are gonna have, I mean, literally, I've owned the property for the one from '84. Retail doesn't work there. I mean, it's a nightmare there's no parking on the right side during the day, and there's about 9 spots there that are indented from my building to where the tavern is, and that's it, other than my lot, okay, and the Wawa lot, and then if you go around the block, then there's the township lot. And so people that are in a hurry pick whatever's convenient.
So what use would be feasible in that location?
Certainly an office would be, I mean, in a slow profile, office would probably work out, because they would basically park somewhere else, a lot of them, because they could walk or something to it. I'm sure, I mean, people that use my space, basically, I mean, they use it for storage and stuff, and they get their name there, people see it. It's a very wonderful area. I mean,
But this is considerably larger than the small locations that you described, so.
No, that's really, the karate shop is not really that wide, I don't think. It's not it's a one-story, which again, I mean, you could expand it. You probably, I mean, I know that this is not basically what you're doing, is what's projected in the future, but I just.
Because I don't think anyone wants vacant.
No. I mean, literally across the street, Mapes went out, and then they spent all that money on the thing. I never quite figured out what was going on there, and it's still used a little bit, but it's not something it's anything that has high traffic is a problem to the area. Something that's visited, I mean, a doctor's office there, which podiatrist, maybe he sees whatever number of people, it would, they could park and get in there and come out. They're in the daytime. Okay, my biggest problem is at nighttime. I mean, literally these people will not have a place to park when they come home. And I lived through it. And then all of a sudden, God provided Wawa.
You're talking about your tenants.
I mean, it immediately solved the problem.
So if you were to put in some sort of restricted access or restrictive gate or something to that effect to protect your tenants, and your parking lot from being used by anyone else, that would protect your interests.
If I could do that and it would work, okay, I would do it in a thing. But the problem is, I don't think it would work because of the street and the fact that people, if they park, they get in there. I mean, let's suppose somebody's going in and they get in with them. I mean, and so there's 2 cars. One car can't get out. And so, because it doesn't have any card. And so they're going to drive through it. And so basically, I mean, people do what they have to do. And so, I mean, I have all types of, if you ever look at the building, I have PVC pipe down because the plumbing goes into the area where they park the thing. So you can't park tall vehicles. And so before I put the PVC in, I mean, they literally would take out whole sections of things. And so, and sometimes people come in and move the things up, and that causes a problem. I mean,
I meant like a gate.
no, I understand what you mean, but it would, I mean, it's not that big. I mean, there's the turning distance, and there's a dumpster in between because we can't put the dumpster anywhere else. I mean, the lady behind us wanted us to move it on to Eagle Road. I said, they don't want to let me do that. I mean, it's where it is, and it works, and the neighborhood uses it, and so, but I mean, it is a, you know, I'm sure if they did a planner 50 years ago, or 100, that's just probably been there since 1960, somebody said, why don't we stick an apartment building there? Maybe they would have said no. I mean, that doesn't make any sense. We want it to be, you know, commercial. We want to be little stores in there.
But here we are, and there are vacant stores across the street from this location.
I don't think that any of them are vacant. I think they're all being used. I don't think they're being used as retail. I think they're being used, though. I don't think there's anything vacant, even on the right side, which is, as I said, the bakery moved out because it was a nightmare. And so, I mean, literally, you don't see anything on that side. There's trees, and when they're permitted to park, you can't see that side. But my side of the street, I mean, literally, the man's paying me $900 a month, and he's not there. He says that he gets so much business because people get trapped on the corner.
Well, that's an unusual situation, wouldn't you agree?
But it's funny, when I moved from Upper Darby, I'm a CPA, and I moved to Media, I left the sign on because I owned the building for a while. And so people would all know I was a CPA. Ed Rimmer, oh, I know you. They didn't know me, they knew my sign. And so basically, some things have more value for advertising than they do for other. And that side of the street does have exposure to people.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you again.
So, with that, do either of you want to make any additional comments in light of the fact that I asked?
Mr. Chairman, the hour is late, and I know you have further business. I think everything that has to be said has been said. I think there's been good cross-examination by Mr. Donahue. There's been good questions from the board and from the solicitor. So I will submit my, there's nothing more that I can be said. Parking is the problem. We both agree, okay? So I will submit the requested information regarding the requirements and be back.
Okay.
Thank you.
Robert, are there any comments or a close that you want to make before I?
Just very quickly, as I'm sure the board is well aware, the municipal plan include provides a standard for a variance. This is a case where there simply is no hardship. And if there is a hardship, it's self-created. You heard testimony tonight that the 29 East Eagle Road is currently being used as a karate studio. There's no variance requirement to continue that use. They haven't been cited. It can continue that way. It's only the result of this sale that mandates that a variance be obtained. So I would submit to the board that this variance application should be denied. Thank you.
And with that, we'll continue this case to our next regularly scheduled meeting on October 18th for the sole purpose of receiving information related to the parking requirements of the karate studio.
Thank you.
Thanks, sir.
That's it. You're welcome. Yeah. You're welcome. Good night. We're going to take a 2-minute break. You guys ready? All right. We'll resume the meeting of the Haverford Township Zoning Hearing Board of Thursday, October 4th, 2018. Our new case on the agenda this evening is case Z18-25. Judith Soret, owner of 26 East Clearfield Road, Havertown, PA, DC folio number 2203, 0047800, who seeks a variance from the provisions of section 182206B1 to allow a 20-foot by 30-foot two-story addition for the purpose of an in-law suite with a kitchenette. The property is zoned R4 and located in the 3rd Ward. Who's Judith?
I am Judith.
How do you do? Please come forward.
Hey, Mr. Chairman, before we get started, I'd like to recuse myself from this hearing.
Okay?
Thank you.
Yes. Okay. Now, Judith,
Yes.
as you saw, we are normally a 5-member board. With Mr. Casoli having recused himself, there are 4 voting members. You could ask that another random member of the board recuse himself, and we can proceed with a 3-member board in order to have an odd number of votes, or proceed with a 4-member board. If the vote is tied 2-2, your application would fail in that event. So 2-2, your application would fail, or whatever other mathematics you could think of under the scenario. So would you prefer to proceed with a 4-member board? Okay. So please tell us a little bit about what you would like to do and why. Oh, I didn't swear you yet. Please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
And your full name and address for the record, please.
Sarai, 26 East Clearfield Road in Havertown, Pennsylvania.
Okay. And now, please tell us a little bit about what you would like to do and why.
Well, I have the world's best neighbors. They have been, since I've been having all these surgeries, they have been helping me mow my lawn, shovel my snow, and my son and my wonderful daughter-in-law approached me about moving back into the home that I raised him in, and to bring their little girl with them, and to add this addition so that I would be able to live on the bottom floor, and they would have a larger bedroom upstairs, and renovate the rest of the house, so that when I have further surgery, I will not have to face the steps in the house, and face the probability of falling. And this way, if I have a small apartment, I can live independently, but still be close to my family.
Okay. And during our break, we briefly, our solicitor discussed with you the process of the hearing, just so you would have a better understanding, and how to mark exhibits and refer to them throughout the case. So I see your son standing with a pile of papers that I know are exhibits. So are you going to testify tonight as well?
Yes.
And since you'll be introducing the exhibits, I'll swear you. So please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Absolutely.
And your full name and address for the record, please.
My full name is Philippe Saray. I live at 4120 Rosemont Avenue in Drexel Hill, Pennsylvania, 19026. Rosemont Avenue. Drexel Hill, 19026.
Okay, so how many exhibits do you have?
I have one map that is marked A1 through 4 of the lot plan as provided by Wiedemann Architecture here in Havertown.
So in total, you have how many?
4 of this, and then I have a letter, Exhibit A5, which
So you're going to have 6 exhibits, right?
5.
5. Okay, so what have you marked Exhibit A1? Just a brief description of what it is.
A1 is the existing and the planned lot plan, proposed lot plan.
And what is A2?
It is that for A1 through A4. They are all marked the same. They're all marked, but they are all the same.
Are they all the same?
Yes.
All right, Exhibit A1 is dated October 4. Exhibit A1 is dated October 4, 2018, and is a plan with a Z1 in the bottom right-hand corner from Wiedemann Architects with a proposed plot plan, an existing plot plan, as well as a zoning conformance schedule. Is that a fair statement?
Yes, correct.
Exhibit A2
Oh,
is marked in the bottom right, A1, and has plans for the basement and the first floor plan of the proposed structure. Is that correct?
yes.
And you can come up and look just to...
I only saw these once briefly this afternoon at like 5 p.m.
Well, let me ask you this. Do you feel that you're prepared to explain everything that's contained
Absolutely.
here?
I've been working with the architect on these plans for months now. So yes, absolutely, I am prepared to discuss these.
Exhibit A3, marked by the architect as A2 down the bottom, is further plans regarding the roof and second floor plan for the proposed structure. Is that correct?
Yes, correct. Sorry,
Exhibit A4, marked A3 by the architect, has to do with flashing and elevations on the property with the proposed property. Is that correct?
Yes, you're correct. I looked at them completely wrong when I was.
You only have this one copy of these, is that correct?
Yes.
So we're going to take a minute, and I'm going to have the board take a look at these.
Okay.
So you don't need to talk while we're doing that, okay?
But there's an A5.
A5 is going to be a letter of a neighbor. I just don't have that up here yet. A5 is a letter dated September 5, 2018, by Scott Hutton, Hutton, the property owner for 19 East Clearfield Road. Is that correct?
Correct.
With the board's indulgence, why don't I just read this into the record now, just so that that's handled?
It is what it is, so you don't have to read it. It's
Okay. It's just a letter from the neighbor. Okay. So I'd suggest the board take a moment to look at exhibits A1 through A5.
Okay, it speaks for itself, I should have said. Not.
Yes, that's fine, yes.
Okay. Let's pass these to about
Might I suggest one, either we just split them up and send two one way and two the other way?
to give Ed one too. This is a covered porch. This goes in that way. Goes in that way. Ed, when you're done with those, you want to pass them down? With a flip? Likewise? Yeah. If you guys are done with those, we'll flip. Sorry. Not. Okay, whenever you guys are ready to proceed, we'll, and I don't want to rush you, I know you. Have you had a chance to look at everything, Bill?
I think so.
Kenny? Ed, have you had a chance to look at all the exhibits A1 through 4?
Yes.
Okay. So, questions? Ken, questions?
I'll pass for right now.
Bill?
Digest it.
So I just have a couple questions. Based on a quick review of the plans, it looks like that the existing house is on the first floor, new kitchen, new mudroom, but the floor plan as overall is pretty much consistent, right? And the second story, which I don't have here, other than the new master, is pretty much consistent. You're not changing the exterior envelope or dimensions of the existing house.
We are changing none of the existing, of the existing house, we are changing no dimensions or anything like that, and even the inside, most of it is going to, with the exception of changing the current dining room into the kitchen and making the current kitchen into a mudroom. Beyond that, we are not changing anything of any substantial, in any substantial way.
So, and I don't have the second floor in front of me, but it looks like the access to the new suite above, in the upstairs of the addition, is through a room.
It's through one of the current bedrooms, yes.
Marked as an office. And the downstairs in the existing living room that will adjoin the addition, what's that, is there anything particular about that wall that adjoins, that separates the existing living room from the proposed new space?
No, it'll stay an open floor plan like it is right now. That room is just tremendously long, and as a result, it's like super awkward to use. Like, I grew up in that house. There's only half that room was ever used anyway. The other half has been almost like just, it's like where we put the Christmas tree on the one side, and that was all it was ever used for. Beyond that, it was never really used.
It's the whole half of this bottom of the
Yeah.
ground floor.
Is there a reason that you wouldn't put a door there into the addition?
The only reason we thought about that, but the only way we could actually make that work would be because of the way where the stairs are to the basement. That would be the only place that would actually work. But given the way the layout is, I was talking with the architect about it. It's probably easier just to have an exterior access point the one that we currently just currently put into place. Or proposing, where the back door and her front door are right there next to each other. Just because it looks like her place is going to be a little lower than our spot.
Right.
So she'll be like, there's a crawl space, but it's not going to be exactly even. She's going to have high ceilings. So we'd have to put another set of steps down, and it doesn't really work as well.
If we were to condition an approval on there being direct access, could have a door between the existing living room and her living space as opposed to a separate outside entrance.
Yeah.
Would you be okay with that?
Yes. So if we'd have to reconfigure the plans a little bit, but we'd have to find a way to do it. But I mean, if that's what it came down to, yes. I mean, we want to make this work as best we possibly can.
So
I'm most interested in
if I can, and please correct me if I mischaracterize this. So I don't want this to come across to you as the wrong way, because I know this is your intended use. But if you guys sold this property, you'd effectively have two separate homes or residences.
I understand that, yes.
So what might the next person do? You know what I'm saying?
I totally understand that.
Not that I don't believe what you're saying.
No, I mean, look, I mean, I grew up, like I said, I grew up in that house. I spent 20 years in that house as a kid. It's kind of weird for me to move back, if I'm a little honest, in some way. But at the same time, it's, you know, as a son, that's what you do. I'm an only child. I'm looking out for my entire family, trying to find a good place for my daughter to raise her. She's 2. And at the same time, I'm also trying to find a good solution for my mom. So that's, especially given her mobility issues. So that's what I'm most focused on. But I also want to make sure she has a place that's her own. She's a fiercely independent woman. She's been that way her whole life.
And you want privacy.
Yeah, exactly. But we also don't want to live with my mom, but we want a solution that works for everybody in the same, in some sort of a sense that I've got close proximity to her. Look, I mean, yes, I understand your question. If it came down to it, like, I would happily, we could put a door, I would be more than fine with something that said, like, if we decide to sell the house in 25 years, whatever we do, we have to have direct access into the building, and we have to take the kitchen out, or something like that. That would be totally fine with me. We are only interested in having a kitchenette for my mom so that she has a sense of independence for herself, and a place for herself that she can make her own dinner and have her own, bake cookies with my daughter, or whatever.
So among the conditions you just mentioned, if there were a condition that there not be a party wall, a permanent wall that separates the two, ever, is that a condition that you would be agreeable to?
We would have to reconfigure some of that with the architect, but yes, we could figure that.
You could still have a door that closes.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, part of what we were envisioning there was on the wall that connects the two places, is that's where we put like an entertainment center or a television back along that wall. That's why we were looking at the downstairs and having that be the way it is. But if we had to figure out a different solution.
And just in candor, I want you to understand what our concern is.
I understand. I understand that you don't want it to be rented out or anything like that, just as a separate living unit for somebody else down the road. I totally understand your concerns. This is my wife, Laura.
Do you want to confer with your husband first?
She wants to do a better job than I am.
I'm just teasing you. Come on up. Yeah, please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? And your full name and address for the record, please.
Laura Cron, 4120 Rosemont Avenue. Cron, K-R-O-N. 4120 Rosemont Avenue in Drexel Hill, PA.
What would you like to tell us, Lauren?
So I wanted to comment on, I understand the concern about having more than one living unit, more than one dwelling on the same property. And I did want to give the comment that in the research that we've done, we have found that multi-generational homes are becoming more and more popular. We have friends who have done the same thing. Judy has friends who now live with their sons or daughters. So even though we don't see ourselves ever leaving, we want to come to Havertown. It's a choice. We love Havertown, and it's a great place to be. We want to raise our kid here. So it's hard to imagine ever leaving the house. But I think that we would be particular about who we would sell to, because it's something that's really important to us, this multi-generational thing. We have no interest in renting the unit. We don't want to do that. So it's really something we feel not passionate about. That's really a bit extreme, but it's important to us. We feel strongly about this particular setup, that we would be firm that this is an in-law suite. This is not an apartment. This has one express purpose, and that alone is for multi-generation of one family living on the property.
Can I add on to that? One of the things I think we're going to be doing when we build this addition potentially for my mother is all of it's going to be designed with her mobility needs in mind. So the entire thing, the tubs, all of that will be designed in a way that takes care of her mobility needs, and it's going to be designed in a way, like that.
So I wanted to chime in about the wall, because I do have reservations. I'm a little bit hesitant to commit to that, even though this is obviously, we do want to get this approved, right? So that's our number one priority. My worry would be that it would change the function of both units by putting a door in the middle of a wall, so that we may have to make the addition bigger. We might have to repurpose other, I don't know, if there's a wall in the middle, or a door in the middle of the wall, I don't know what that would do to the functionality of the house as it is now. I don't know if we would have to expand further. I don't know if we would have to, I don't know what that would look like. So
if you want some time to talk to your architect and kick it around, I think you can get a sense for the concerns of the board, then, I mean, we're willing to give you time. I don't know how pressed you are for time.
Well, we want to get this moving because we're going with Finbar O'Kane potentially for this, and we would like to get, Finbar was telling us he'd like to get the masonry started before the winter for, and preferably in October, maybe even early November at the latest. We would like to get this kicked off then. The financing is already sorted, all of that stuff's already done, so I'm just.
It's an offer to you. I mean, our next meeting is in 2 weeks, and if you wanted to go over this, because I think it's very important, whether or not you'll commit to or agree to a condition about having a party wall that creates effectively a twin house on a single house lot. So if you don't want the time, I'm happy to proceed tonight.
I think we know what that means.
If you want the time, I mean.
Let me just express one thing, and I can speak, I represent the board, so I can only give them legal advice. But I will tell you that by history and the way zoning works in the Commonwealth is you're asking for a specific type of relief, and you're providing plans here. Stating that those plans might change or may change does not give this board the facts, the specific facts that they need, and that's concerning to this board.
Understood.
Right, no, so my concern is that if I commit to say, yes, we'll put a door in that wall, and then to come to find out that that won't work, we're gonna come back anyway, right? I mean, is that fair? Is that how that would
No,
work?
because that would drag you out longer. Because potentially.
I think our best course of action in this instance is just to say, we would commit to it, and we could make it work somehow if we need to.
I think Finbar will review the plans with you expeditiously and come up with a solution. And I'm not even saying that having a door causes this to be approved. I'm just saying that, from my perspective, effectively creating two twins on a single family lot could potentially, be a heavier burden or a higher burden for you to overcome. And you're correct, there have been other people who come in for in-law suites. Typically, they're, parents and children living together in the same residence, not permanently separated in residence. And, we understand those sorts of needs, and it's not you, it's future owners, what they might do.
I understand your concerns, absolutely. They're valid and reasonable.
So,
I
while we're on it, I mean, Ed, do you want to hold any questions if they want to wait 2 weeks until we have more
I
certainty?
just have a general question, though. We're talking about the in-law suite, but then we're having a whole second floor. What's the justification for the whole second floor? I mean, because now you're adding another bedroom, and I only heard about 3 people.
Well,
I think what they said is the plan is to have mom live downstairs, and they live upstairs, and they each have their privacy that way.
No, they have.
You're
living there
I
first.
I understand your question.
They're adding
Another
a
bedroom.
master bedroom.
One at a time.
Arlene has to type this. Okay.
So basically, right now, the house has currently 1 full bathroom. And we would like to add a second full bathroom upstairs. In addition, but there's no good place to do that, but we also want, in case our family continues to grow, I would like to have additional space for both, for potential additional children. So I'd like to have a little bit more room upstairs for another bathroom and another bedroom for that exact reason.
Right, a larger family.
Yeah, potentially.
Yeah, you're already, and I see the office there, and that also makes me worried too, concerned about possible uses of this as some business operation that's not approvable too.
I mean,
No.
well, not like that. I mean, both of us have jobs where we can work from home here and there, but beyond that, that's,
Okay.
I mean, that's it. I work for a
No,
rental.
you're within the building code, so you're certainly allowed to have the house as big as you want. This is sort of things that I just wanted to touch base and hear
Yeah,
you
no,
say.
no. It's not like it would be like a business or anything like that, no.
Thank you. That's all I have, Bob.
Kenny, you want to reserve until, assuming, are you guys going to go meet with Finbar and then come back in 2 weeks?
What do you want to do?
I think so. I just want to make sure I understand your position. So the ultimate concern is that there's no
Connectivity.
interior, connection between the two units.
That there is,
Not,
that there is a connection.
Want there to be.
right. So the plans as they are, it doesn't have that. It's just the exterior doors, right? So you would like to see some kind of interior.
I would like you to explore that option to see if it's feasible. But that doesn't mean that it's approved if you do that. So I don't want you to walk away with some misconception. But Kenny, do you want to reserve? If they're going to continue to our next hearing?
Well, I need a little clarification. If you get the inside door, the exterior door has to disappear. You in agreement with that, Bob?
I'm in agreement with that idea because as proposed, you have two separate dwelling units on a single parcel of property. And a dwelling unit is defined as, functional living and eating facilities and all that with an outside entrance. So the point was whether the entrance would be through the main house as like an in-law suite within the house, as opposed to a separate dwelling unit.
But it's something for the board to deliberate, because
It's just one view that it might be an easier lift.
Okay.
they did offer to remove the kitchen on their sale of the property.
Right, and there may be
also.
other ways,
So,
yeah.
But it's something to look at. Okay.
And the other thing, I just wanted to comment that the variance isn't for you. I mean, you're seeking the variance, but it's really for property, the building. So, at some point, hopefully not in the near future, but it'll change hands in 100 years or whatever, and that's what we have to preserve. If that makes any sense.
Your children may or may not want to stay there and take care of you. Yeah, of course. Depends how good a parent. Any other questions, comments, concerns you want to express?
No.
Ken, Bill, Ed?
No, thank you.
Okay, so would you guys like to take the time to go meet with Finbar for 2 weeks, and we'll schedule this hearing to continue at our next meeting on October 18th?
Yeah. 'cause
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
probably
If
wouldn't
we
be,
say
we wouldn't be
yes, then we're
voting
gonna
tonight
vote
anyway.
Yeah, okay, yeah, I mean, yes, let's just do
Yeah.
it.
Under any conditions, we wouldn't be doing a decision this evening. So, and you'll bring plans, if you're going to make modifications, revise the plans.
I'll talk with Wiedemann to see if he can give us
Yeah.
plans with potentially a door, an interior door.
So can I confirm though, so if we remove the, I guess, front door from the addition, I mean, there should still be some other means of egress, right? So I assume a back door is still,
Well, is there a back door now on the house?
Yes,
yeah, but it would be the same, I mean,
it's probably gonna have to be through the same.
it would be through, I don't know. Or maybe I should not confuse you with things that don't
Yeah,
exist.
don't confuse it,
But your
because
architect will be able to help you, and they
Okay.
would know what the code requires for ingress and egress from a safety point of view.
Yes. Okay.
yeah, because, I mean, I respect Kenny very much, but I don't have, well, and Bill, and I don't have as big an issue with a secondary entrance, but that's why there are multiple members of the board.
Okay.
So look at both options and bring back plans, and we'll continue it. And, to the extent possible, we would try to maybe do a decision that evening, depending how heavy the agenda is. Even if we concluded the case tonight, you wouldn't get a decision. It'd be at our next meeting.
Totally understand.
And they wouldn't have to wait as long, because you're a continued case, you'll be on.
We'll be early.
Second.
So with that, I'll continue this case to our next regularly scheduled meeting on October 18th.
Thank you very much.
Any other
They're moving
administrators?
these in.
Yeah, they're marked, moved, and admitted.
Here's, they need to be readjoined.
With that, we're adjourned.